Thanks for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast. If you like what you hear today, be sure to like it, follow it, share it with everyone you know, and be sure to give it a big fat review. You can also follow the show on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for regular updates about upcoming guests. Today, we're brought to you by Metro Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram at Chicopee. Be sure to stop by their state-of-the-art dealership next to BJ's and Big Y on Memorial Drive, or stop by MetroJeep.com and make it Metro. And then drive home in your new Metro Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram today.
It's Baxie's Musical Podcast. Resistance is useless.
Do you have any idea how hard it is to do anything for 50 years? I'm 59 years old. All that stuff that I used to do when I was 9, I've kind of grown out of. Even the good stuff. But to do something for a full half century, you got to be really good at something, really love doing it, or have the sort of tenacity, commitment, and endurance to never say things like, I'm getting too old for this shit. I'm not entirely convinced that I'm not that sort of guy. But for those who are, it's hard not to show respect for what they do and how hard they've had to work to keep on doing it. For example, next year, Dutch guitarist Adrian Vandenberg will celebrate his 50th year as a professional musician. Most of you may remember Adrian as the longtime lead guitarist for David Coverdale in Whitesnake, where he not only performed the guitar solo on the 1987 hit Here I Go Again, he also co-wrote nearly every song on the band's next 3 albums. Of course, some of you might also remember the hit This Burning Heart, which was a top 40 hit on his debut studio album Vandenberg in 1982. To celebrate this milestone year, Adrian Vandenberg has announced a U.S. tour, a new album, a documentary, and an upcoming biography. All of it culminates in a one-time show next April in the Netherlands, in which he will perform songs from every phase of his career. The U.S. tour begins on August 3rd at the Vault Music Club in New Bedford, Massachusetts. He'll also be performing at Toad's Place in New Haven, Connecticut the following night on August 4th. To talk about his amazing 50-year-long career and his plans to celebrate it is my guest today, guitar legend Adrian Vandenberg on Baxie's Musical Podcast. There you go.
Good deal. All right.
Now I got
How
you.
you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing excellent.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you. Next year is, it's quite special. I mean, I must say, I was already active semi-professional recording records and stuff as a young session musician when I was about 18 or something, 19. But I put my first rock band together 50 years ago next year, so I thought that would be something to celebrate.
I mean, to do anything for 15 years, whether it's music or teaching or plumbing or whatever it may be, it takes a whole lot more than just being good at your job, and it is a lot harder than that. I mean, longevity, especially in music, takes extraordinary amount of work and loads of commitment. What's kept you focused for the last 50 years of your music career?
Yeah, just being ridiculously hardcore, talented, motivated, and passionate about doing this. For me, it's easy. I mean, in that sense. So I'm really fortunate. Of course, and up until Vandenberg in 1982, I was semi-professional. When I was a student at art college, I was in a professional band, but I was the only semi-professional one because I was still a student. But those guys were, like 8, 9 years older than I, and they were recording records and stuff. I thought, oh great, recording a record. It was like the ultimate thing. And over the years, when in '82, when we broke with the first Vandenberg album, ever since it's been full-on professional. Even though, let's see, in the first year of Vandenberg, I was still a part-time graphic designer, and right before that, I taught art and art history at a high school for about a year, which was pretty funny because I was only, like 3 years older than the students, and I got the whole parent board on my ass when I was starting to go out with one or two girls out of my class because they were cute and they were only 3 years younger than I was. So I thought, what's the big deal, you know? But their parents didn't like it. So
That's maybe the biggest regret of your career, I would imagine.
yeah,
You know,
it
oh,
was.
I bet. It's funny because I remember playing, This Burning Heart, back in the 80s when I first started in radio, and it did become a hit here in the States. And, I always felt that, that your skill as a guitar player was, always outstanding, but I always thought that your skill as a songwriter was pretty high level and perhaps in a way, maybe even underrated. How do you feel about that as a guitar player and a songwriter? Do you feel more comfortable in one than the other, or is it, do you feel comfortable in both positions?
Well, in both actually, I think it's a big advantage as far as my guitar playing goes because I think in melodies, you know, and that's people call me a melodic guitar player, which I guess I am, because to me, when I come up with a song and a song idea, like for instance, Burning Heart, it's actually for a hit single. It's a pretty long solo actually.
Yeah.
I only realized it lately, funny enough, because I was so used to it that I didn't know any differently. But for me, to continue the story that you're telling with a song, that's for me how a guitar solo should be. You know, that's like one of my biggest heroes, Brian May. One of those storytellers on guitar, you know, and I really like that. Jeff Beck is another one, and so I never looked at a guitar solo as a vehicle to show off. To me, it was also always to continue the story you're trying to tell in the song, and then build it up to like the last couple of choruses for a vocalist to go berserk.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I interviewed Marco Mendoza on my radio show. We talked a little bit about some of the early plans of what you got coming up, and in touring with him and Vinny Moore. I mean, these are guys that you've known for an awful long period of time. It's got to be kind of nice to be planning a tour and then beginning a tour with guys that you feel really comfortable with. That's got to be kind of a nice way to start this thing off.
Yeah, it is. You know, it really is. I know Marco quite well because he supported Vandenberg when we did one of our Dutch tours 2 years ago. A great guy, great player, of course, and he's been around. He's a road dog, you know. He doesn't stop touring. I do also enjoy the difference between touring and not touring in the sense of I get my I need I get my inspiration from daily life and things that happen in your life. If I would be on the road all the time, uh, for me as a songwriter, it would be a little bit one-dimensional. Also as a painter, actually, that you're doing the same thing every day.
Yeah.
As much as I love it, because I could easily be on the road, like in the Whitesnake days. You know, our tours were like a year and a half, and you would have like, if you were lucky, like one day off. You know, in a week. But in this case, you know, I really enjoy also doing other stuff that I love, like painting, cooking. You know, I love cooking. For me, it's those things come from the same source. Like when I'm writing songs, you kind of make a composition with sounds, and with when I'm painting, you compose with colors and balance and stuff. And when I'm cooking, you know, you basically compose with flavor. So
Yeah. Well, it's
to
funny.
me,
It's funny, they say, when you're cooking, you're cooking with love and you're cooking with heart. It's not that much different than whether you're painting or you're putting a guitar solo together. It's really kind of in a way, it really is very much all kind of the same artistry and emotion into it all.
it is, yeah, it is, and I love it. You know, I love it all. And the thing I love most is probably writing songs and being on stage. That is like my number one. And probably if I would have to compare between those two, as much as I love writing songs, on stage with a great band, because I have a great band. You
Yeah.
know, I've got like a reincarnation. Well, not a reincarnation because Tommy's still alive, but I got like a young Tommy Aldridge as a drummer in the band, and a fantastic bass player that is like basically it looks like Rudy actually, Rudy Saizo, years ago. And I got a fantastic singer who can actually sing songs like "Still of the Night" and that serious stuff with power. And you know, those guys are pretty rare. So
Yeah.
I'm really proud of this band, and it's going to be a lot of fun because Marco and Vinny do that thing with their band together, and then we come on and do celebrate my Whitesnake years, and that's a lot of fun because I haven't played those songs in about 30 years.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because one of the things that about this tour, particularly the show in April in the
Yeah,
Netherlands. I mean, yeah, you're
yes,
playing songs from Vandenberg and Whitesnake, obviously, but I mean, also other projects. Manic Eden, a perfectly good example. You had one album in '94, but
yeah.
Vandenberg's Moon Kings. Those are two really strong records, and I thought so. I mean, as a fan, there's a little bit of everything for everybody here.
Yeah, I'm really happy with those records, and we had a great band together. The bass player is actually in my band now since about a year and a half. Um, the problem was we couldn't tour internationally because Jan, the vocalist, has a huge farm,
Mm.
so he couldn't stay away from his farm. He got paranoid, so, because he hired like people to do the job, and he said, "Man, if I fuck up, I'd rather do it myself instead of getting a phone call. Man, we messed up. Sorry about that." It would drive me crazy because he's been farming ever since. His dad used to have this farm that he took over, and he actually worked in Canada on a big farm when he came out of his higher farming education. He's very knowledgeable. So that was the reason why we couldn't really tour international. We did one short tour, special guest to Scorpions in France,
Oh wow, yeah.
and and Jan, the singer, he was quite unrestful. He had to check his computer all the time if everything was going okay and stuff. And so that was a thing because I really enjoyed the Moon Kings thing, and so for the new album, my plan is to write three Moon King songs and record them with the original guys. Three Manic Eden songs, record them with the original guys, and three Vandenberg songs with the Vandenberg lineup that I have now. So it's going to be a very special celebratory album, of course.
That's awesome. What a great idea to do. That's fantastic. One of the other things that are coming up in the next year, and you can tell me a little bit more about this. There's a documentary and a biography in the works, and
Yeah.
in the process of like reviewing everything you've done over the last 50 years and having it published and filmed and released musically. I mean, do you find that to be kind of like a weird self-conscious experience to go
Totally
through
right.
all of that?
Yeah. Yes, you're totally right. That's exactly how I've always looked at it because people have been asking me already to write a biography probably the last 30 years. And then I always said, well, I'm just getting started, so we'll talk about it later. But now, because of this anniversary year, it was the perfect thing to do. As far as a documentary, a part of the documentary has already been filmed in the Moon Kings period. There's a Dutch film director who is specialized in music documentaries. He did, like, for instance, if you heard about that Beatle band with the analogs at
Mm-hmm.
all. So he did documentaries on those guys, and he did the one about Moon Kings, the Moon Kings period called Atje, which is my nickname in Holland, which means Little Adrian. It's on YouTube. I'm not sure whether I think the whole documentary is on YouTube, but a lot of it is in Dutch. There are interviews with Coverdale and with Steve Vai in there, and with English rock journalists and stuff. But a lot of it is in Dutch, and it's on YouTube. So that guy, he wants to move on and do the rest also. So it's going to be interesting.
I bet it is.
but but you're right. It's an interesting self-conscious kind of thing because for me, because I was the guy who experienced all the stuff, it's all completely normal for me. And sometimes when I talk to people like you and certain memories pop up, I go, I did have quite some weird experiences.
Of course you did.
So it's going to be fun to dig them up and to realize that they are quite special and that I'm every day I'm fully aware that I'm a lucky bastard because I'm living my passion.
Yeah.
Everybody would love to do that, and I never expected that it was going to be the case because with my kind of music to make a living in Holland was totally unthinkable, completely unthinkable. So when we got a record contract offered for Vandenberg at the time in 1982 with Atlantic Records in the United States, I thought, man, well, this is probably going to be over next year. I never thought, it would continue forever. And the same thing with Whitesnake. Um, every day when I woke up in a ridiculously luxurious hotel, and I saw like this big fluffy bathrobe dangling on the door of my suite, I thought, man, if this is going to be over in a couple of weeks, nobody's going to take this experience away from me. And then every night you played for between 30,000 and 100,000 people, that was, for a Dutch guy, totally unthinkable.
Wait, I mean, was there something that surprised you in looking back at all of this? I mean, that you just either forgot about or didn't realize or saw it in a different way. I mean, was there anything that was like surprising to you?
Yeah, well, when we started special guesting with Ozzy in 1983, um, I never saw venues that big. We were playing, of course, in 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 seaters. What surprised me is I felt immediately at home on a huge stage, and it had a lot to do with Ozzy because he was incredibly supportive. Um, and he said, "You guys take a sound check. I don't need sound checks anymore. I hate sound checks. You guys use everything you want to do." He did not tell the sound guy, cut down because that's what Kiss did, for instance, the year later. And what also surprised me is the first day when we joined the tour. I think it was in Rochester, maybe New York. Um, one of Ozzy's guys came up to me when we arrived in the hotel, and he said, Ozzy would like to meet you. I said, oh, great. So he took me to the canteen, well, to the restaurant in the particular hotel, but the restaurant was dark, and I thought, what the hell am I doing here? And then I saw a silhouette of Ozzy, like kind of, his head rested on the table in the dark. And the guy that took me there tapped him on the shoulder and said, Ozzy, Adrian is here. So Ozzy looked up and his face was all covered in yogurt or something. Just like the little, he fell asleep kind of in that plate, on the plate of whatever it was, porridge or yogurt or something. And he said, "Hi, Adrian, would you like to join my band?" And I said, "Well, wait a minute, which I thought you were joking, right? No, I'm not joking." And then he kind of started slurring all kinds of stuff that I couldn't really understand because I was kind of
It's Ozzy.
taken aback. And,
Yeah.
and he just had Jake Lee because it was the tour after Randy passed away. And later on, at some point, I think it was Don Airy, the keyboard player, that he said something that my style of playing reminded them of Randy's style, because they had some classical influences and stuff. So I thought, oh yeah, it probably makes sense. But we just got Jake Lee, who is a fantastic guitar player, and also I was just getting started with Vandenberg, so I didn't even answer because if he's probably a little buzzed or whatever. So that was quite surprising.
I want to talk about David Coverdale here for a second because he just a few months ago announced. Well, actually, last year he announced his retirement
Yeah.
from playing. You've played with David for a number of years. I know you've kept a halfway decent, good relationship with the guy. When he announces retirement, do you ever say, "Hey, Dave, no one likes a quitter"?
No, he didn't say it that way. I was kind of expecting it at some point, because I do know that the last tour I did with David was in 1997, 1998. I toured with and worked with David for almost 12 years. Um, I did realize that the last tour, he didn't seem to enjoy it a lot. So I was actually quite surprised that he still kept going for so long. But I also kind of expected at some point he's gonna call it quits and just enjoy his retirement, which is probably what he's doing. I haven't talked to him in a while, but At the same time, he's like a born musician. I mean, you can tell it by his singing and by his voice, but also he is actually absolutely passionate about music. The two of us spend nights and nights and nights of listening to blues and soul music and rock and whatever in his entertainment room, which was like a sizable theater, basically, where we watch movies and stuff. So it was really, yeah, in that respect, it was still a little bit surprising also because I thought, man, um, on the other hand, you would think as long as the Stones keep going, you want to keep going. That's how I look at it.
Sure.
If nature lets me, if nature allows me, I would love to keep performing until my last breath, so to speak, which will probably be in 50, 60 years from now or something.
Well, I hope if you're doing a 100-year anniversary that maybe we can have this conversation. But I don't see
Me
myself
too,
lasting
man.
that long. But I mean, David is a remarkable vocalist, and I know he had been trying for years to get you in his band. I mean, his vocal style is pretty demanding
Oh
anyway,
yeah,
and to have
yeah, it is.
to have the longevity that he did, both in Deep Purple and Whitesnake, and some of the other things that he had done, it's pretty extraordinary that he was able to maintain his voice for as long as he has or did,
Yeah,
because I mean that is really a demanding way of presenting music. Is his particular style?
it really is. And I could tell, of course, because I know him so well that I could start hearing the wear and tear of his vocal cords, which is completely normal because whether it's Steve Perry or I mean, the only exception that I know is Paul Rogers. He still sounds like a 23-year-old guy,
Right.
Yeah, probably my favorite vocalist, and he's still delivering like crazy. But it is delivering. He has a different style. He doesn't go up into stratosphere like David does. So yeah, it is very demanding, and I can tell with Mats Levin, the singer I've been working with for the last 4 years or something. Yeah, probably. Um, he still does it. He takes really good care of his voice. I can tell, when he was working with Amy Malmsteen, his voice was cleaner, obviously, because it's like, was it like 20, 25 years ago or something. But he still hits the high stuff. Quite amazing. He takes really good care of his voice. He starts warming up like an hour before the show and takes it easy. He doesn't go, partying after the show, rest his voice. He's really, really focused on that. Quite amazing. I remember the same thing with Steven Tyler when we were doing shows with them. Steve also, Steven, he started warming up his voice, la 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 la, all that stuff. So he took care of it too. And David didn't do it that much. He did it a little bit, but not like boring exercises. I guess he thought I've always done it like this. I'm going to keep doing it like this or something.
Yeah, I know I don't have you for a lot of time here, but I did want to ask you because I thought this was pretty interesting. So the U.S. tour kicks off August 3rd, and it starts at the
Yeah.
Vault in New Bedford, Massachusetts, and the following night you're at Toad's Place in New Haven. What made you decide to kick this tour off in this part of the? I mean, this is my backyard. What made you decide to start things off in New Bedford and New Haven? Was it just a logistics issue, or was it something more than that?
Yeah, yeah, it's a logistic thing. Our new agency, Paramore agency, we already did two East Coast tours in the last 2 years
Hmm.
or the last 3 years. So I was a little surprised too. But right now they're setting up a West Coast tour in next year. It's probably going to be May. It's going to be West Coast and Texas and some Florida again. Um, So I guess there's a couple of venues where we already played, which is great because they were a blast. And you're basically I'm rebuilding my base these last few years because as people know, I haven't toured the states. The last time I toured the states was in I think it was '97.
Wow.
Um, so when we started again in 3 years ago, it's been quite a while, and I love it, because for me first of all, it reminds me of all the Whitesnake years, and of course you play different venues, you play great clubs and stuff, but really cool theaters, and I really, really enjoy that because we played a bunch of theaters where Elvis used to play, and Allman Brothers, and Otis Redding,
Sure.
all kinds of favorites of mine were actually on that stage. So for me, it's holy ground, sometimes. So I love it. It's there's a reason why Paramore decided to do East Coast again, and it's fine by me as long as I'm touring the States.
That's great. Adrian, I know you got a lot going on, and it's going to be a hell of a year for you. So, again, congratulations. 50 years. It's a remarkable achievement in music for anything,
Thank you. Thank you.
but particularly for what you do.
Yeah, just getting started. That's how I look at it.
Congratulations, Adrian. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Take care. Hope to see you soon.
Hope so. Take care now.
Always welcome.
Adrian Vandenberg will be kicking off his 50th anniversary tour of the United States at the Vault Music Club in New Bedford, Massachusetts on August 3rd. He'll also be at Toad's Place in New Haven, Connecticut the following night. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can email me at bax@rock102.com. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks to Metro Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram at Chicopee for their support. But most of all, thanks to you for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast.